Good evening. I would like to welcome you to the March 5th, 2024 regular business meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. March is Women's History Month, and we recognize the accomplishments and the contributions of women the globe over. Education is everything. Education is your power. Education is your way of life for whatever you want to do. That is from the entertainer Sierra. At this time, we will observe our traditional moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, Chief Carolyn Callahan will come with our recognitions and resolutions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It is my pleasure. We always love to talk about the great things that happen every day inside every JCPS school. And our recognitions are a chance to honor and recognize some of those students and staff who are doing amazing things. For our first recognition today, I'm going to have a little help from the Kentucky Department of Public Health from Amy Harrington. Amy is going to come up and help present a very special honor to Dr. Eva Stone.
And with me, I would like to also recognize the Louisville Metro Health Department as well as our school health branch. Tonight, we would like to recognize Dr. Eva Stone for being named the 2023 Immunization Champion awardee by the Association of Immunization Branch Managers. The Jefferson County Public School District Health Manager Eva Stone has been named in national recognition that honors individuals for going above and beyond to promote or foster immunizations in their communities for children and adults. This champion award is hosted by the Association of Immunization Managers as well as the CDC. Awardees are nominated and selected from a pool of health professionals, community advocates, and immunization leaders for significantly contributing to public health in their community. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Stone collaborated with local pharmacies to provide thousands of COVID and flu vaccines to the students in school. As a trusted location in the community, these clinics became a site in which parents, students, and their siblings received vaccines. In collaboration with community partners and Medicaid, these clinics became a focal point for establishing medical homes and Medicaid services for these students. From October 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2023, 3,000 unique individuals received 5,000 vaccines. The impact of Dr. Stone's legislative advocacy has impacted the entire state, as school-based clinics have been established in other districts, allowing students to receive care in places that they and their parents trust. I lovingly and with great honor recognize Dr. Eva Stone.
Yes, go ahead. Go get him. Congratulations, Dr. Stone. Thank you for all you do, and thank you so much. Next tonight, we want to say congratulations to Norton Commons Elementary School fifth grade student Lydia Feld, who received the Kentucky Association for Gifted Education Distinguished Student Award. This award recognizes a student from grades 5 to 8 who has been formally identified as gifted and has distinguished achievement not only in academics, leadership, or the arts, but who also has made a contribution to the community at a level beyond what is expected of a child in the student's age group. Lydia spoke at the Capitol in Frankfurt and was honored at the CAGE conference in Lexington in February. She also received a college entity account from the Kentucky Education Savings Plan Trust and a certificate of excellence from CAGE as part of the award. Lydia, congratulations. Congratulations, Lydia. The Kentucky Music Educators Association has named Adam Bullock, the Carruthers Middle School Director of Bands, the 2024 Middle School Teacher of the Year. Mr. Bullock, yeah, you can clap for him. Mr. Bullock received his award at the conference in February. KMEA consists of more than 1,000 professional music educators at all levels, from kindergarten to college, who are dedicated to the cause of music education in Kentucky. Its award program recognizes inspiring teachers for their commitment to music education. And under Mr. Bullock's leadership and advocacy, the Carruthers Band secured an invitation to perform at the 2023 KMEA conference. This was the first time in program history they were invited to perform. That is a very high honor at the state level. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Next tonight, we are recognizing Maupin Elementary School student Austin Porter, who was recently recognized by Louisville Metro Council and Kentucky Senator Gerald Neal for extraordinary creativity and talent as a promising young photographer, and for taking part in a program where local youth strive over a 3-year period to capture their daily lives in pictures. This is so impressive, folks. We have a lot of talent standing right there. The program is run through Neighborhood House. Everyone, please join me in recognizing Maupin Elementary student Austin Porter. Great job, Austin. Congratulations. Next tonight, we say congratulations to Ballard High School student Ben Cullens, who won the JCPS Career and Technical Education Esports League logo design contest. This is very cool, folks. The CTE division hosted the contest for CTE graphic design program students to produce a logo that could be used for a JCPS Esports League. Ben's winning design earned him a $100 gift card and $10,000 for Ballard's graphic design program. Congratulations. Congratulations, Ben. Great job. Next tonight, we have 6 JCPS high school students who were awarded the McDonald's Black History Makers of Tomorrow Scholarship. The program, offered by the local McDonald's owner-operators of Greater Kentucky and Southern Indiana, and in partnership with WHAS, celebrates diversity and young leaders in Kentuckiana by awarding scholarships to local outstanding high school seniors who are actively involved in their school community and embrace the values of leadership and culture. Students were nominated by a teacher, counselor, or principal from their schools, and you see them up here right now. Congratulations to Cameron Austin of Seneca High School, Kamaya Bush of Breckenridge Metropolitan High School, Bryce Brown Harris Jr. of Western High School, Sana Mugabo from Central High School, Jada Murray from Pleasure Ridge Park, and Jayton Tunstill from Wagner. Congratulations, great job. Our next recognition tonight will be no surprise. If you haven't heard this story, I don't know where you have been. But we have a lot of very special employees throughout JCPS, and Larry Farish is one of them. He is one of our bus drivers who is getting a lot of national and international attention. If you haven't heard the story, we're going to play this video for you to get you all caught up.
For me and all the posts that was coming through, people sending me text messages, family calling. I'm just like, whoa, how? Where do y'all see this? Show me. And they would all send them to my phone, and it's just been amazing. From a guy that hasn't had social media in a decade to now my face is on the news. And it's just overwhelming in a good way. When I did this, I was looking for no recognition. It was a thoughtless act on my behalf. I just wanted him to be happy. And when he was happy, I was happy. It made my day and it made his as well.
I want about Mr. Leary's how he's kind. His heart is filled with hundreds of joy. Like how he cares about me is making my day.
This is not the first time we have done anything. You know, this is not the first time I have done it. My coworkers have done it. You know, previous coworkers that have moved on to different positions, different holidays. We buy gifts, we buy toys, we buy snacks. So this act of kindness is not just with me. It's all throughout JCPS, you know, and the recognition is amazing, but some that goes unrecognized, it's a lot of heroes within JCPS, a lot of heroes. I want to give recognition to all my bus drivers, all the staff that actually do what I have done that hasn't been recognized. I just want them to know we see you. You know, we're here and we're together in this.
Yes. Incredible. Larry is on Zoom. He's waving to us all right now. He's still in a bus compound because he's a very dedicated bus driver, everyone. Larry, anything you want to say to the group here?
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry my appearance. I literally just dropped off my last student, but thank you all. And I'm so proud that we can do this together. And I love JCPS. Thank you.
Larry, thank you. And if you don't know the full story, that little boy, that cute little boy you saw, his name's Levi. He's an Engelhard student, and he didn't have PJs on PJ's day. And Larry knew something wasn't right. Levi was sad, and so Larry went and he got him PJs, and he brought those PJs to the school, and it has made a difference worldwide. People all over the world are contacting Larry and Engelhard, and this is just, remember, great things do happen every day in every school. Unfortunately, we just don't get to hear about all of them. So Larry, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here to present recognitions tonight. That concludes tonight's recognitions.
Thank you, Chief Callahan. And congratulations to all of our honorees. I would like to acknowledge that Board Member Craig will be late tonight. He is celebrating his son being inducted into the National Honor Society at Eastern High School. And so we celebrate along with him. And I would like to also acknowledge that Board Member Marshall is on Zoom. Ms. Duncan, would you please read the vision statement?
Well, our vision is for all Jefferson County Public School students to graduate prepared, empowered, and inspired to reach their full potential and to contribute as thoughtful, responsible citizens of our diverse, shared world.
Thank you. Is there a motion to receive the recognitions? Mr. Cole, Ms. McIntosh, all in favor? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Ms. McIntosh? Dr. Cole, all in favor? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th and February 20th meetings? Dr. Cole? I'll second it. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce to you our superintendent, Dr. Marty Polio, for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Schul and board members. It's going to be a tough act to follow right there, and I should have a very positive board report after that, but unfortunately I don't. So my apologies after all the good news there, but that was just maybe the best group of celebrations I've seen in 7 years. So what an incredible group of kids. And
employees at JCPS. I bring you the superintendent report for March 5th. I did want to talk a little bit about this morning that Dr. Schull and I took the opportunity to travel to Frankfurt to comment on House Resolution 81, which passed out of the House Ed Committee today. It's an attempt to form a commission to explore the breakup of Jefferson County Public Schools. Even though that said that was not the case during today's meeting, that is clearly the case. I've spoken at length many times about the absolute devastation that this step would cause for the children of Jefferson County, and I want to be very specific. The highest devastation would be those from our most marginalized communities, without a doubt, and probably put this community and this district back 5 or more decades. To highlight this, as you look at how the commission is currently formed in the bill, there will be no representation from our most marginalized communities or even any of our communities of color. We even saw today the commission may not have any members of color on it, as it makes decision for a district that is majority minority and our most marginalized kids. Although there was speculation today that I would even be a part of the commission, there is no guarantee in the resolution that the superintendent would be a part of any commission that, according to this committee, would explore what is right about JCPS and what needs fixing in JCPS. And so I want to be clear about this. I don't think I've ever sat up here and said that we're perfect or that we don't need to address issues within JCPS. I've been very clear many times about the things we're doing right and the things we need to continue to improve on, and we are doing those. And so I would challenge and urge everyone that is here today to make sure that you become very active in what is happening in Frankfurt right now, whether it is anti-DEI legislation or whether it is the breakup of JCPS, which I think would be devastating for the people sitting in this room right now. So I would highly encourage you to get involved, be involved, and let your voice heard. And if you heard my state of the district, you know what I've been asking Frankfurt to do, which is stick to facts when commenting on the successes or struggles of JCPS. And we know right now the facts are very loose around the community and in Frankfurt. And so I've been highlighting a lot of those myths that take place right now. And so during this session just last week, we have been accused of being a district of wasteful spenders and somehow a district of wasteful savers at the same time, which I don't understand how it is possible to be a district of wasteful spending and wasteful saving at the same time. And actually, as usual, our percentage, although our number appears big, our percentage is much lower of our reserve funds than many other districts in the state. And of course, that is never brought up in Frankfurt. It is only pointed at JCPS. Secondly, as you know, we are facing a fiscal shortfall in the near future. The amount of money that we spend right now this year is greater than the revenue we take in, because we are trying to, and most of that's a result of staff stipends and raises, as we rightfully should know, to combat staff shortages. And finally, it's amazing that a state legislature has proposed a budget with an ending fund balance of this biennium of $5 billion, and yet once again they attack JCPS for their fund balance. Myth, we've always been talking about our bloated central office. As you saw in my State of the District address, we have the lowest per pupil expenditures of a central office of any district in the state of Kentucky, but that will never be known when it comes to talking points. We hear all the time we need to have an audit or a commission of JCPS. We've actually had 6 audits in my 7 years as superintendent, with successes in each and every audit and things we need to grow on, without a doubt. So I would encourage the legislature to just do a meta-analysis of all of our audits, and I think they can come and see where we are doing well and where we need improvement. Our myth is our budget is too big and bigger than Metro Louisville. I'm sure we've heard that a lot. Actually, our budget is exact at scale with other districts around the states. And the fact that you hear all the time that JCPS actually has a larger budget than Metro Louisville. Well, that is actually a fact for most districts across the state of Kentucky. Their budgets are larger than their metro government. See Lexington versus Fayette County Public Schools, or Elizabethtown versus Hardin County Public Schools. It is absolutely no different. And so I think it is important that we work in facts. And I will repeat what I said this morning. What educators in the Commonwealth need more than anything else from the legislature is help with three things. 1, teacher vacancies, 2, bus driver vacancies, and 3, student attendance. All of these are extremely difficult issues. No one can solve them on their own. They are problems in every district and every state in America. But 95% of effort and time in the legislature should be spent on tackling these critical issues that are a crisis now. And I struggle to even give a word to what they will be in 10 years from now, unless we all say this needs to be the focus of our work. Once again, the three things: solving the teacher shortage, the bus driver shortage, and improving student attendance. We cannot be successful across this state unless students are in school. And this is not just a JCPS issue. These are issues that are in every district in the state. And so many of the political issues that are being discussed, breakup of JCPS, DEI, other issues, they pale in comparison to what needs to be talked about. And that needs to be those three issues. And with a legislature that has a ending biennium of $5 billion, I believe they need to begin tackling these issues right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Polio. Board Member Marshall, are there any updates on the student outcomes focused governance?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair Scholl. So everyone on the board should have received an email from me last week. Myself and Dr. Scholl were able to meet with Leslie, our coach from the Council of Great City Schools, to discuss our next steps. So now that we have approved goals and guardrails, those need to go back to the community for feedback. And so in that discussion, a couple of board members had raised the point that they would like to offer the community an opportunity to provide feedback face to face. And so we are suggesting 4 community listening sessions hosted by 2 board members at each meeting. And so what I need from board members by the end of tonight, if you would like for a listening session over goals and guardrails to be held in your district, let me know so we can coordinate meeting locations and where they would be. The second part is we will still continue to record our video that will go out on all social media platforms and to news outlets. And we're asking all board members who are able to participate in that video. So if you would like to opt out of participating in the video, let me know. If not, we will be sending information to get that video recorded. We have a deadline of the end of the month to have all these listening sessions done, get all community feedback, so that by April, we are ready to fully approve the goals and guardrails. So at any time that you have questions about any of that, you can ask them now or ask me later. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Marshall. We do have speakers, but no speakers are on agenda items. Therefore, they will speak after the business of the board has been completed. At this time, we will hear our racial equity policy update. Dr. Polio.
Thank you, Dr. Scholl. At this time, I will bring up Dr. John Marshall and his team, group of presenters that they will be bringing our biannual update of our racial equity policy. So we'll let them get seated and then I will turn it over to Dr. Marshall.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you all for having us. We're here to give the annual update. Well, we give it twice a year, the annual update for the racial equity policy. This policy was approved in 2018. Board unanimously decided that this is something we need to do. At that time, there was an admission and still is that we need to do more for our students of color. I want to remind the board that the tenets of this policy are curriculum and instruction and assessment, school culture and climate, staffing and classroom diversity, programmatic access, central office commitment. We believe that these are the things that we need to do in order to continue to do the work that we have set out to do, and this is very important and critical work. All right, so the racial equity plan, Dr. Dawson is out of the town right now, but one of the things we have done, and I think this is very important for the board and community to hear, excuse me, is as we do this streamlined work, one of the things as we continue to do the racial equity work, we wanted to make sure it got a little bit lean, but all the while keeping the tenets and the expectations of the work together. So as opposed to having a lot of metrics that we had at the beginning of this policy, working with Dr. Dawson, Ms. Lewis and her team, we got very lean and started streamlining it. Some of the things to look at is more aligned to the tenets and dictates of the racial equity policy. So as we work with schools and we work with cabinet members, we made sure that we stuck to the racial equity policy and made sure it was specific to what it is each department needs to do. A clear vision for racial equity and student impact. You'll be hearing from students, I believe Mr. Van somewhere, we'll be hearing from students soon. They'll be joining us to speak. Fewer and more focused goals, as opposed, kind of similar to the goals and guardrails you guys are working on. We started having a clearer focus on what the goals are and how specific we can get as we do this work. Connectivity between supporting and direct activities, research-based. A lot of times, to Dr. Polio's point, we kind of stay away from research and facts. Everything we are doing within the racial equity policy is research supported and factual. And then frequent progress monitoring, and Mr. Bunton is going to talk a little bit more about that progress monitoring. So we don't have a racial equity policy for the sake of having one. We have it monitored, and we do that in collaboration with all other cabinet members.
All right, good evening. As Dr. Marshall mentioned, we have 5 racial equity policy goals that have been condensed from the 22 that we had prior. Those are on the screen. So one goal per tenant programmatic access is the first one that we're taking a look at. And the goal and the focus for that is to increase post-secondary readiness for our students of color. And so what we have here is data from last year in comparison to this year for all 5 of these tenets and those goals. And so you'll see an increase in post-secondary readiness moving from 57% to 64%. And then staffing and classroom diversity, the focus is on teacher, admin, and also retention of teachers. So increasing teachers of color, admin of color, and also retaining teachers of color. And so those numbers are there from the previous year and then also this year. Moving from 16 to 17% for our teachers of color, admin of color, 34 to 37%, and 97 to 94%, but they're still above the goal that we had set for 2 to 3 years ago. Central office commitment. The focus here is on our racial equity analysis protocol, the REAP, and those that are determined to move forward with no changes. And so you see the data here, 85% in 2022, and 76% in 2023. And so when we talk about moving forward, no changes, those that have gone on have been, I guess, seeing that there wasn't anything that needed to be changed in 2022, 85% of those, but in 2023, we had 76%. And so with that decrease in number, what you have more than likely here is more efficiency and really looking at the potential harm that can be done prior to moving forward with that REAP, and whether that be policy, practice, procedure. So a little bit more efficiency there. And so that's the reason for that decrease in number. So you'll see that 85% to 76%. Curriculum instruction and assessment. This focuses on our proficient and distinguished numbers for our students of color in reading and math. And you'll see here that there hasn't been much of an increase, much change from 2022 to 2023, slightly for reading, moving from 26% to 29%, in math, 19 to 20. And then our last goal for school culture and climate is focused on sense of belonging. And that stays status quo for 2022, 2023 at 74%. We have a new initiative this year that's called Racial Equity Envoys. And basically what the Racial Equity Envoys are is a liaison between our department and schools. And these individuals receive training once a month from our anti-racist specialists.
in 3 domains of our R tool. And the delivery model for the racial equity envoy is a train-the-trainer model. So what they receive, they have responsibility to go back and provide for their staff the training that they receive from our anti-racist specialists. In addition to the resources that they receive during those trainings, those are also expected of them to provide to staff and also to their administration. And so there was a call for more racial equity support in schools, and with us only having 3 anti-racist specialists, over 160 schools, it's hard for them to be in all schools at all time. And this was a way for our department to have that touch point. You also see that under impact, what I mentioned, those 3 areas that our racial equity envoys receive, but then you also see that they are participating in 2 book studies, Cultivating Genius and also Unearthing Joy. And this is in lockstep with our principals. So our principals are also participating in that book study this year. And so it'll give our envoys an opportunity to have a touch point with principals and administrative staff to have conversations to help further move the work. And this is also a focus of our academics team as well, in terms of those 5 pursuits from Dr. Golden Muhammad. And so there's alignment here, you'll see. Also, under school alignment, you'll see some quantitative data and also qualitative data. So our racial equity envoys receive a SMORE via what's basically a newsletter, and that goes into the hands again of staff at school and also administration that has been tapped into 6,500 times by school staff. Also, our envoys provide professional learning opportunities, whether that be synchronously during goal days, staff meetings, what have you, or asynchronously. All trainings that they receive are recorded. So if they can't provide that in person, they can get that information in those videos to their staff. And that has been done 629 times thus far this year. And so we've also heard back from some principals and staff in terms of the impact that envoys have had at schools. And so several principals have acknowledged that the envoy ability to model, advocate for student learning experiences based on training received has been above par. And so it's really helping them in that area. And many staff members have expressed that the envoys have been able to provide meaningful learning experiences for colleagues and support them in their journey for racial equity.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of our Chief Academic Officer. She is out of town with Dr. Dossett. So I'm here to represent the JCPS Academics Department to discuss the work that we do in tandem with Racial Equity Department to make sure that everything that we do is aligned. We walk with them lock in step to make sure that the academic alignment and culturally responsive content are aligned, and to make sure that what we're doing and what they are doing is being seen in schools, is being heard in schools. And so we are making sure that everything that is happening is authentic, and we want to make sure that the student experience is what we are focused on by making sure that adults have the professional learning that they need in order to make this work go forward. So we are committed to making sure that we have a culturally sustaining curriculum for all students. We work to ensure instruction and assessment empowers learners, that they see themselves in the curriculum, that the school culture fosters their own identity and their own purpose, and that there is explicit anti-racist discussion, practice, and action in place. We are, again, aligned in every aspect along with our racial equity department. We make sure that the content integration as far as text, topics, other materials are interdisciplinary, and understanding that the work of racial equity is not another thing, it is the thing. And so the curriculum cannot go forward unless racial equity is a part of that. So we make sure that it's integrated into all of the curriculum. Also, the curriculum that we have that is universal curriculum K-8 and ELA, and will be K-12 next year, is knowledge building curriculum. And with this knowledge building curriculum, it is acknowledging who students are, it's acknowledging, and it is also ensuring that students see themselves within the curriculum and within all the content. Also, prejudice elimination through teacher PD focus or professional development to make sure that their mindset is in the right place, to make sure that they can deliver the curriculum in a way that is not biased. We also ensure that there are high leverage instructional practices in every lesson and highlight those with principals so that they know what to look for when they're going in classrooms to ensure equity of voice in the classroom as well. And then also empowering that classroom culture to make sure that the character education lessons are there as well as social emotional learning embedded into the curriculum. And lastly, the R, or affirming racial equity through assessment, to make sure that the many ways that we assess students is diverse and that they are seen also in assessments as well. Lastly, literacy is definitely a moral imperative and a right. And we make sure that that is something that we stand by every single day in academics. We know that at one point in time, it was against the law for certain students to be able to learn to read. So it is imperative that we take the time each and every day to ensure that we are intentional about making sure that our students have the right to read and that teachers understand the importance of teaching students the right to read or how to read. We want to make sure also that through our screening and diagnostic assessments that teachers understand exactly where students are so that they can take students to where they need to be. Our high quality tier 1 curriculum is focused on foundational literacy skills so that we can get students to a point where they are able to comprehend, not just learn to read, but read to learn. We also have K-12 literacy plans for every school so that they know where the students are, they know how to triangulate the data to determine what the students need and to provide interventions for students. Also having a read at home plan to make sure that parents also have resources to be able to help students in the home. And lastly, as Mr. Button was talking about, we focus on Dr. Gholdy Muhammad's 5 Pursuits, and through those book studies that he discussed, we are also making sure that we bring the author into the district. So she will be here. Dr. Gholdy Muhammad will visit JCPS on April 18th, and that is a joint effort with academics and DEP.
All right, our anchor documents you all are familiar with. We've had 5. We have a new one that has been put into place this year, which is called the LEASE, Leading Equity, Accountability, Support, and Expectations. This document is one that Ms. Deanna Jones uses as a specialist for principal support when she meets with principals to help them identify systems that may need to be in place, what they may need to tighten up in terms of the racial equity work. And so she intentionally reaches out to our newer principals and I ask them what supports they need. And this is a document that she uses that when she meets with them to help them think through systems that they have within their school. School level exemplars. So we want to highlight 3 schools that have been doing yeoman's work. One of the principals is at the table with us right now, and he'll speak a little bit later, but Chancey Elementary produced a phenomenal REAP for Family Teacher Conference. And so really looking at the intent of Family Teacher Conferences and making sure, again, that there's inclusion for families, especially those that have been traditionally marginalized. Our Newcomer Academy produced an EMPT, Equity Monitoring Progress tool, that had dynamic and robust in all domains, either dynamic or robust or embedded in all domains this previous school year. And so they're doing some phenomenal work in terms of racial equity at Newcomer Academy. And then Wilder Elementary show growth in their racial equity walkthrough. So they had one in 2022. We went out to Principal Perkins School this year and saw a stark difference in the work that they're doing in their school. And he'll speak on that a little bit later, but they had connections to all 6 observable components of the R tool during their walkthrough this time around, so which is commendable.
Okay, and not just kind of the nuts and bolts and the ABCs, but there's some other things that's very important as we talk about the racial equity policy and how JCPS is, without a doubt, it's not even debatable, leading the nation in this work. Our Louisville Teacher Residency Program has gotten national attention from Maine to Hawaii, and now we are officially also at Bellarmine as well as U of L under the leadership of Selena Fishback. This program has become a national model and will continue to grow. Dr. Polios put a lot of support behind it. It was a fledgling program a while ago, but now we have a very competitive group of people trying to get in, and that will help and is an attempt to help with the teacher shortage. The equity screener is a way in which we screen applicants, administrators up to say that we are qualified to be equity leaders. No longer in JCPS can you become a principal and then work on your equity work. If you're in this district, you should be doing equity work regardless of the level you're in. The screener will actually screen such and move that person, I won't say up, but move that person to become more attractive to the work that he or she is doing. And then we're on track to make our goals for our MWBE under leadership of Delquan Dorsey, another national model with the help of 7 p.m. We are, as this board has approved, to do a lot of facilities work. We are making sure that families and companies of color are also doing that work and making sure they get the bids. We're doing a lot of training to help them become a part of the community, and we are making our goals, which is a policy. And then growing and serving the models for other urban districts. Our employee resource groups are one of none. We have over 6 of them, and they come in a safe space and kind of explain their celebrations, concerns, et cetera. So as we talk about this racial equity work, it's important that the board, when they voted for it, I don't know if we even understood the breadth and the how far it would stretch, but these are things that kind of just happened and we didn't envision it, but with the work as it continues to go, these are national models. These 4 things are national models and things we are doing under leadership of Dr. Polio and this board.
Hello, I'm here to talk about data from 2 of our schools that are culturally responsive, teaching and leading the work. This table in front of you is the 2023 percent proficient distinguished results for African-American students at Grace James, the district and the state. And when comparing these results, Grace James is performing above the district and the state in all content areas at all grade levels, except for grade 7 science, where the state is 1% higher than Grace James. Next. Yeah, good data. And at Du Bois, when comparing the KSA results for African-American students at Du Bois, for reading, students in grade 6 are performing below the district and state, but while students in grade 7 and 8 are performing above both the district and state. And for math, students in grade 7 are performing above both the district and state, and at grade 6, they are above the district but below the state. Students at grade 8 and 10 are performing below the district and the state's percent in math, but in the other content areas, students at Du Bois are performing at or above the district and state, except for grade 7, where the state is 1% higher than Du Bois.
At the state of the district, well, one of the things that has gotten a lot of news and a lot of attention is the recovery that this board has led us to with students and the recovery on the other side of COVID. Dr. Polio said it, and I just want to remind the board and community, our unabashed, unapologetic focus on racial equity is part of that reason. Mr. Johnson, who is part of ACRE, is going to speak more to that, but I just wanted to remind us, in reading, Black students have fully recovered from the learning loss caused by the pandemic. This is in part because of the things you have just heard. This is proof too that we need to continue to doing the things that we are doing, if not accelerate them.
Good evening. My name is Ben Johnson. I serve as the chair of the Advisory Council for Racial Equity. And so just sort of echoing some of the things you've already heard, the celebrations, the district-wide curriculum, we've heard how students are achieving more. We've heard specifically how Black students are doing better. And I dare say that's not something we should either take lightly or just dismiss. The expectation is that we will continue, this board will continue, the city will continue, the state will continue to uphold and fund racial equity. And also we want to begin talks works for K through 12 at Du Bois, as well as Grace James Academy. Dr. Polio spoke to some of the things going on at the state. Let me, as a private citizen, be clear. I do not see where Frankfurt has the best interest of this district, our kids, or our community at heart. My experience is bullies bully. And when they get their way with one victim, they move on to another. So if you want to sit here, and I'm not the board, this is a general statement. If you want to sit here and be careful because you think it's not you, just wait. Your turn is coming. And so we have to really be careful about that. We can't be comfortable because it's JCPS and then they want to roll DEI in there as well. I have never seen how we grow by taking things away. And I'll close with one example. Imagine anyone in this room who has multiple children. You have a child that makes a mistake. I decide to take your children away, split them up because they're not doing as well as I think they should. I'm not an expert in your household. I've never been there. I've never spoken to you. I've never spoken to your children. I've never spoken to your neighbors, and I'm not allowing you to be a part of that decision. But I've decided, based on a child or two not doing as well as I think they should, that I'm going to split them up. That's what I see being proposed in Frankfurt.
This evening, we have with us Principal Bill Perkins from Wild Elementary. He's going to come and talk to us about the growth that he's experienced with racial equity in his school.
Thank you very much. And I am Bill Perkins, principal of Wilder Elementary, and I'm very honored to be able to be here tonight. I want to thank Dr. Marshall and his team for including us. And I also want to say, you know, while we've made some strides, we recognize that we have much more work to do. One of the things that was mentioned earlier was that a couple of years ago, we had a walkthrough by Department of Equity and Poverty representatives, DEP representatives, and the walkthrough was not very good, for lack of a better way to describe it. I was not very happy with it, but we embraced what it was that they said that they saw, and looked to put that into our plans to try to improve as a school. As well, we work on our EMPT evidence each year, and we were not pleased with that score. But we accepted that, and we set out to do something about it. And so one of the first adjustments we made was to really focus in what they call Domain 3, culture and climate, and focus on the culture and climate of our school by celebrating and positively recognizing our students on weekly telecasts, social media, assemblies, and ceremonies. As well, we've, for the past several years, I've ensured that the DEP battery of opportunities, the PD selections, were consistently advertised and promoted by me, even offering stipend to staff members who attend and who are willing to bring back information and share with the staff. We also made sure that in any of our professional development days, we had equity trainings available for staff on things from the R tool to equity-centered classroom look-fors, to reviewing various EMPT resources and analyzing our own equity profile scores and making a plan of action. We went about also reaping all of our policies and procedures and putting forth all of the effort required to change them. For example, one of the things we recognized was that our vision and mission statement that's displayed around our school needed to be translated for our multilingual students and families, and also making sure that all of our communication home is provided in various languages. Being aware of our demographics and ensuring there is equitable acknowledgement during all of our recognition ceremonies. Wilder is a diverse school. We're 44% white, 32% Black, 11% Hispanic, and 13% other races. So it was important for us that we acknowledge that and we included folks in with our ceremony. our different ceremonies and awards programs. We also went about establishing the norm that our staff recognizes many of our families' holidays and celebrations, not just the celebrations for the majority. We increased our walkthroughs in classrooms. We used many of the look-fors in the racial equity walkthroughs that DEP used when visiting our school to prepare and better educate our teachers on how to relay the content more efficiently to their students. And so when the team returned this year, they were able to see some changes, and those were acknowledged in the report that we received. And then based on the feedback, we immediately took action and we made corrections, some of them immediately right after the team left. And then some of them we put in our action plan for our comprehensive school improvement plan. So Wilder has seen some great gains and reductions in the right areas, in the novice areas, or the lower areas, students behind grade level, in all of our groups over the past couple of years. We still recognize that we have much more work to do, but we are determined to get it right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Greg Van, and I oversee the Black Student Unions in JCPS. This year, we have more than 53 BSUs. We have about 1,400 students in those BSUs, but the bigger thing is that we make a large impact with tens of thousands of students in JCPS. Pretty much when you look on social media and you see that we have a Black History Month program, almost 100% of the time, the BSUs at that school were behind making that happen. So they do projects. This year we have 25 confirmed, but we'll get up to 53. Each school determines a project that they want to do to improve the lives of Black people within their school community or their local community, so it could be something like a podcast that talks about Black hair or the Crown Act, or it could be something like a fundraiser or raising food for organizations like Dare to Care that work for Black families. And last year, our cumulative GPA for the high school students was the 3.34 average. So that's exemplifying Black excellence and academic excellence, which is one of our focuses in BSU. You're going to hear from one of our BSU sponsors, Mr. Brandon Riddle from Seneca High School. Our communications team always talks about every day in JCPS, we having great things happening. I've seen personally some of the great things that he's done, like using his own personal network to fundraise to make sure his students get to go on field trips to see plays by on Fannie Lou Hamer, because he believes that those students needed to see about her life. So we have a lot of great BSU sponsors, and some are as good as him, but I don't think anybody's better than him. So his BSU does a phenomenal project every year. In February, the one that he just had a couple of weeks ago. So you'll hear from him, and then after that, you'll hear from two students, one from Butler High School and one from Ballard High School.
All right. Hey, hi, everybody. My name is Brandon. I teach at Seneca. I graduated from Seneca. I'm year 15 now. 5 years ago, the students in our school started a BSU, and they were looking for a sponsor, and somehow I ended up getting, asked, and I certainly wasn't going to tell them no. So, to speak on the impact of our BSUs, first of all, to me, the BSUs are a petri dish for leadership. I've done it 5 years, and all 5 years, the students choose their own president. All 5 years, it's been a Black woman. And I think, and if you think about traditionally in our country, the most marginalized voices have been Black women. So to have 5 every year, we have elected a Black woman. Next year, we have Lanice Blakey, who's going to be the president, and that'll make 6 in a row. So yeah, they've already done it. We have a couple young ladies up here who can speak to what I'm saying. But our Black student unions provide an opportunity to learn how to advocate for yourself, how to use your voice, how to speak up on issues you care about. We, like Mr. Van had just mentioned, the past couple of years, we've done, as part of our Black History Month celebration at Seneca, what we call the Black History and Career Fair, where we bring in leaders from the community, Black voices who want to speak with our students about different career opportunities. If anybody in here would like to participate next year, please let me know. But that, you know, that gives the students an opportunity. They create their own booths about various aspects of Black history that a lot of students are never going to hear about. And so, you know, it empowers our students. Like I said, it gives them a voice. 2 weeks ago, our Black Student Union was down at the Justice Fest at the LD Center, where our group is working on creating a documentary to address the health inequalities that exist in West Louisville, obviously impacting predominantly Black people in this community. So they're using their voice. They're learning how to advocate. I've seen incredible like growth from kids over the years. Every single year, there's always several kids who are, you know, a little quiet, reserved, and then they end up becoming these tremendous leaders. Our principal was just talking about that at our faculty meeting today. Like, these kids come in and they're quiet, and then next thing you know, they're demanding people listen to them and address the things that they need to be addressed. So it provides a sense of belonging. It's not just the students who are in the BSU, but by elevating, you know, Black voices and addressing concerns of our Black students, all students of color in our schools end up feeling safer. They feel seen. They feel respected more. And, you know, being part of this, like I said, it's not something I exactly anticipated, but it's probably been the most rewarding thing, you know, I've seen as an educator, just the growth and the empowerment of our students. So we're creating leaders, people who care about humanity, people who care about decency and equity. And so what we need from you all, please, for one thing, like I said, I was doing this a long time ago. So I was doing it before the money. But having said that, if you continue to fund the BSUs, it's going to, you know, it encourages more people to participate. And that's something that we need this in every school. We need every school to have that opportunity to have a leader in their school that the kids can go to and sort of have that chance to grow and develop. We definitely 100% unequivocally need you to help lead the fight against these attempts to roll back training, you know, efforts to create a more equitable district, a more equitable community, because some of the people in Frankfort are clearly, well, this is being recorded, you know, but some of these people do not value equity. They do not believe that our society has historically created inequities that we need to rectify, and we need to stand up vehemently against that. Everybody in the room needs to contact their lawmakers about Senate Bill 93, because if we undo this work that's going on, you know, like I think it was Dr. Marshall who said, we're going to roll back, maybe it was Dr. Polio, we're going to go back 50 years, and it can happen. You know, it's happening in other states. We really need to stand up and advocate for our students who deserve to have a voice and who deserve an equitable education. And we definitely also ask of you to please continue to support and provide equitable education that reflects the diversity of our students. I believe right now we're getting close to 40% white, 40% Black, 20% Latinx. We definitely our students need to see themselves in the curriculum. They need to be heard. They need to be valued. And if we allow these folks who do not care about equity to roll that back, those students are going to become marginalized again. And we just simply can't allow that. I'm not going to preach anymore. I will let the young people speak.
Hello. Sorry. Hello. First, I just want to say thank you, board members, for your attention, especially you at District 2. I don't want to butcher your name, but I really appreciate your eye contact as the speakers are speaking to you today. But my name is Renelda St. Hilaire. I'm a senior at Ballard High School, and I'm currently one of the co-presidents for my BSU, and I'm also the class president for my senior class. And something that I wanted to just touch on briefly, I know Dr. Polio, you talked about how one of the 3 things we really should focus on as a district: teacher vacancy, bus driver vacancy, and then student attendance. So just to go off student attendance, for me, I take mostly APs at Ballard High School. And with that being said, there's not a lot of students that look like me in those classes. So I get to appreciate people that look like me and have that community with my Black Student Union. And something that even at my school that they've really talked about is the attendance for Black students there, and how I know there's been a couple of students who've literally told me some days the reason why they come to school is because they know there's a BSU meeting that day. They know that we're gonna go after school, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk about whatever topic that is, or have an activity and do that together and grow, enrich us with each other. And I think that's just something really important to talk about. And then also understanding that, I know if you're part of JCPS, you know that each year you guys send out surveys for students to fill out. And something that my school has noticed is that when it comes to Black females, they're the most likely to say that they don't have a sense of belonging. And I think that's something that will be absent because of the lack of BSUs and because of this bill that is being pushed. And I just also want to say that my school is also one of the schools that does a Black student showcase every single February. And I just think putting the idea that that can be removed is just limiting, and it's almost scary because it's like, well, me being the color, having this skin color and having the classes I take, I barely see people that look like me, just my day-to-day 7 hours a day. And then now you're telling me after school I can't even see the people that look like me. It's almost disrespectful. So I just wanted to say that, and just say that it's important to be a part of this fight, and it's important to understand that without having a BSU, it's limiting people who look like me, and it's limiting me with the idea that I don't have power. It's saying that I don't care what you believe. I don't care what spaces that you're in. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Madison Livers. I go to Butler Traditional High School, and I kind of wrote out something a little bit more formal in the structure because I can't think off the top of my head. Hello, my name is Madison Livers. I am Black. I am a future politician. I have brown skin. I am melanin, and I belong. Growing up Black, you always hear the saying, "This is a white man's world." I always thought Black people were overly dramatic when saying that, but as I got older, I lived it. When you get older, you understand your surroundings. You understand how others look at you and even view you. In this world, being Black is like picking through fruit. People are always trying to figure out if you are the bad ones or the decent ones, but you see how I never said the good ones. Being Black is something special. You get to be different. You get to enjoy the generational traditions and beliefs. Being Black is a gift. However, being young and Black can be a curse. When you're young, your adolescence take over. You're confused, trying to figure out who you are. When you're young and Black, the world tries to tell you who you are. You're a thug. You're a hood rat. You are nothing. Sorry. When all you ever want to be is something. I speak before you today to shed the light on crucial aspects of our school community, the Black Student Union. In a world where diversity can be celebrated and individually cherished, the Black Student Union plays a pivotal role in fostering an inclusive environment that reflects the true essence of our diverse student body. We all get to be something. The Black Student Union is vital because it serves as a platform for empowerment and unity. It provides a safe and supportive space where students can come together, share their experience, and celebrate their unique identities. In a society that can sometimes be marked by challenges and obstacles, it could just be troubling. By organizing events, discussions, and educational activities, the BSU enhances the understanding and appreciation of African American history, art, and culture. In BSU, we get the chance to use our voices by going up to the Capitol to fight for our rights to rock our hair how we want or our bodies. This not only benefits Black students by fostering a sense of pride in their heritage, but also educates the entire school community, promoting a more informed student body. The BSU serves as an outlet for kids to be themselves, fostering a positive environment where they can share their interests and challenges without fear and prejudice or discrimination. Now, I know what you all might be thinking. This seems like we may be going back in time. Well, the Black Student Union does not only benefit Black students, it benefits our entire school community. By embracing and celebrating our differences, we strengthen the bonds that connect us all, creating a secure school environment. We cannot do this without you all. I can sit up here and talk about all this, but at the end of the day, we need to do it. We need your support. We need the funding for kids who may not have seen outside the West End and want to see what life can be like. We need your public support so we know that we're not alone. We need you to fight for us. We need as many opportunities to get our voices out there. We need you. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, Black Student Unions, I'm very glad that we're doing those. And again, thank you to the board and Dr. Polio for doing that. Another thing, and I won't go through all of these, but when we talk about antidotes and impact, some of the stuff we won't be able to get empirical data, but there are some things that when we say we are leading the nation, that I think it's important that this board owns and understands. 23 districts have drafted an equity policy. They're not brave enough to do a racial equity policy since we've done ours. 5 academic research articles have been written about policy or DEP, and 3 dissertation proposals as we speak about DEP, 1 at Berkeley, 2 at U of L, well, and then the other one at Western is coming out. Then the middle column is important when we talk about antidotes and impact. As we talk about teacher retention, and Dr. Greenwebb could speak about this for hours, I'll read this very top one. I stay in my school this profession and in this district because we at least have a racial equity policy. There are Black teachers that are aspiring teachers that are graduating of color, and white teachers are saying JCPS has a racial equity policy. I'm not going back to another district that does not. So I want us to understand that even the policy that we have in place is a recruitment tool, and there are Black people, or there are aspiring teachers that come here specifically for that. And then I'll end with the one on the bottom. I won't say which principal said it, but he's sitting here. I found the courage needed to address poor behaviors in adults when I started attending racial equity PDs. So this is why we continue to do racial equity work. This is important as we start thinking about what we're going to do about DEI work. And then increase in equity since 2018, since you all have passed it. There's more chiefs of color at cabinet. I used to be the lone Black guy up there. JCPS board, there's more JCPS members of color. There's more principals of color. Funds and resources dedicated to multilingual learners has increased. Students of color graduating college and career ready has increased. More PD offerings on race, gender belonging, and inclusion. Students of color completing high level courses. This is what this board has ushered in. This is what we want to continue to do. This is the work. And then real quick, as I think this is the last slide, future focus is to reconstitute the advisory council. We're at the point, Mr. Johnson and others, where we have to reconstitute it and get more members or different members. Some will fall off, others will come on. Create a public foundation specifically for diversity, equity, and poverty work. Update the racial equity policy. Revise the equity scorecard and update facilities plans on school equity, belonging, and budgeting, curriculum, and implementation. So it is full speed ahead for JCPS. Thank you all for your time, and we are now ready for any questions.
And I'll conclude by saying thanks to all the presenters, specifically our 2 students. Wonderful job. I'm going to take you all to Frankfurt with me from here on out, if that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you all for this presentation. Board members, are there any questions?
I have one at least. I have several, but you also answered a lot of them. But moving forward, how will these actions and activities like the equity screener and the lease document, how will that be used to hold staff accountable for what you're trying to accomplish overall?
So the screener is, I don't know if it's an accountability tool. It's almost an assurance tool. The screener is, as you are applying, you have to identify and evidence that you're already doing equity work. See what I'm saying? So as we continue to identify that and strengthen it, and as our principals go through an equity screener, they will have to say as an AP counselor, whatever they were, I was already doing the work. What we know that will do is we're not just getting into that seat and saying, I'm gonna start doing equity work. With equity policy since 2018, we are starting to see that we have built some impact, that we have made some gains. So there should be equity regardless of where you're, what role you're in to move it forward. And I'm sorry, the other question.
Well, will these, actually be written into like performance reviews to actually state accountability and how that works?
So all of our administrators have in their evaluations, a piece of anti plans, a component that is about racial equity. So we're proud to say that we've done that. So that is in every administrator's evaluation.
Teachers as well and other staff members?
It is not a part of the teacher's evaluation right now. It can be a part of the teacher's growth plan if they choose to be, but it's not mandated in their growth plan right now.
Okay, it's not mandated. Well, then that raises another question. If we're trying to implement this and it's wonderful what's happening, but how do we hold people accountable, including instructors? If it's not in, there's no accountability document, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I think that's something we can work with JCTA on. The evaluation is agreement between JCTA and JCPS, but I think that's something that we can work with them on.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
Yes, there we go. I got it on. One thing I want to say, I visited Wilder the other day. Wilder's not in my district, but Bill Perkins used to be in my district. So I wanted to go over and visit with him, and I got a chance to go into every classroom. And, one of the products of this work is the sense of confidence and validation that the kids show. And that's what I saw as we went in each of those classrooms. All those kids felt so validated, accepted, and just valued. And of course, they love Bill, and they're running up and hugging him every classroom we go into. But it's that's a great product of what's going on with the pursuit of this equity policy. I do have a couple questions, though. I want to know why the data is different in this report on proficiency than it is on the state report, because I saw the state report, and by the state, I think we're 21% proficient in reading and 12% proficient in math, our African Americans, but on this report, it's 29% proficient in reading and 20% proficient in math. So is there an explanation for that difference? Why? Because we saw that in November, and it was for 2023. So does anybody know why there would be different numbers coming there?
So the difference in those numbers that's being reported, that you see the 29 and the 20%, that is looking at students of color. So there's all of the students that are not white included in that, versus the numbers that's you received over the slides that we did for the reporting. That is looking at the data broken out by each individual student group. So you have the African American students by themselves, Asian students by themselves. So when you're looking at African American, it's 21%. A Latino, it was 31% for reading. And white, it was 50%, and Asian 64%. But that's because it's reported out by individual subgroup versus the data that was presented. In this report, it put all of the students of color together and gave a percentage that way. So you had the 29 and 20% for reading and math.
Okay, so that included more than just African American students in there. Okay,
Exactly.
thank you. That's clear. One thing I also noticed, the middle school scores. Our middle school scores all across the board were below state middle school scores for our African American students. And with all of this work that we're doing, when does it catch up? Because I noticed, that the state's probably not doing this kind of work or this in-depth work that we're doing, but when does that catch up? Because the middle schools were still behind the state in these scores.
I'll answer that. I mean, I think we have lacked investment in middle school. There is no doubt about it. And I think we've changed that over the past 2 years, 2 to 3 years. But I mean, that is something that I think we have been way behind in is investment in middle schools. And we're probably seeing that as a result. So I'm happy to say that we are now investing in the success of our students, but I think that's going to take time. But I think that's a direct reflection on our lack of attention and investment in middle schools.
Well, and one more thing, I have to mention this. When we use Grace James and Du Bois as a comparison, it's difficult because you're looking at schools that really get to have a selection process for their students compared to the schools that don't. So I'm not sure. I love the achievement that's going on in both of those schools, but I'm not sure they compare well with the others because they do have a larger say in who comes into their buildings than the other schools. We're at, I think, 37% African-American administrators, and I'm concerned about, are we striving to increase our Hispanic administrators? Because 37%, well, we're I guess 51% minority, but that gap in there is not all African American. That gap is other people of color. So are we doing some intentional things to recruit Hispanic, Asian, anyone else as teachers, administrators?
Well, and the answer to that is that we really struggle in that with administrators because we're extremely low in teachers, and our administrators usually come from our teacher ranks. So there, admittedly so, there's a lot of growth in that, that we've got a lot of work to do. So yes, we are intentional on trying to recruit, but you know, the applicant pool is not real strong for us too. And so, and that's with all teachers right now, but I think we've got to continue to focus on that. So that is an area of growth for us.
Well, thank you. I just think we have to keep remembering all the groups that we include in our minority percentage and strive to try and draw more of those in for our students that can identify with them. But thank you all very much for this very uplifting report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Ms. McIntosh.
I'll be very brief. No questions per se, but Mr. Riddle and Mr. Van, where did he go? Said to find you if we have opportunities for your BSU students. I want to talk to you. Got something in mind. I will find you. And ladies, if I had had half your poise at your age, I think my parents would have been very proud. So I'm sure yours are. So congratulations just on your presentation tonight.
Dr. Cole.
Thank you, Chair Schultz. Just a few quick things. Dr. Polio, I don't know if you're being facetious about taking them to Frankfurt or not, but you really should try to do that. As a district, it's really encouraging to hear so many things, but one of them that stood out most to me is the leadership that is emerging from Black student unions. And I hope that as a district, we think about ways that we can lift those leaders up even more that come out of Black student unions and give them a bigger platform to influence the district and outside the district as well. And then just finally, we know that, you know, this is a lot of great work and there is so much to be excited about. We also know we still have a very long way to go. I think I speak for all of us when I say we are committed to this for the long haul and keep coming to us and demanding, it's the right thing to do, demanding that we provide what is needed to make this the most successful equity initiative in the country. Thanks.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. Craig.
Well, Dr. Shull, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'll join Dr. Kolb in the commitment from at least one board member, and I think the entire board, to seeing the work through to the end, and to fighting back. I hear loudly from the presentation and the panel support for the DEI work that we are doing and pushback against efforts in Frankfurt to unravel that work. We're fighting against it, and I think we're all united in fighting all of those efforts. Thank you for reiterating it tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
No questions for me, sir. Thank everybody for their work.
Thank you. Again, thank you all so much for this presentation. It was wonderful. Is there a motion to receive the racial equity policy update? Ms. McIntosh, seconded by Ms. Duncan. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you. At this time, we will receive an update on school choice plan implementation.
Thank you, Dr. Scholl and board members. We wanted to, once again, this is our quarterly report, as is in policy, on our school choice and choice zone update. We are in the midst right now of student assignment and student selection, I should say, and family selection. So I know this team that's coming up here, led by Amanda Averett Bush, are probably very tired. They get, I'm sure, lots of phone calls throughout the day, but lots of exciting stuff to report on too. They've come a long way just in a short period of time. So I'll turn it over to Robert Moore, Chief of Schools, to do introductions on the report.
Thank you, Dr. Polio, and good evening, board members. I'm happy to be here to bring the update on our new student assignment plan. It's just, I guess it's a great segue coming from our racial equity, racial equity update, because this is the student assignment plan is just another clear example of our intentional efforts of putting policy to action, putting words to action when it comes to equity. So definitely glad to be here. I was assumed this position 3 years ago. Dr. Polio tasked me with the oversight of the development and the implementation of the new student assignment plan, first under the direction of Cassie Blousey. But I hired a great replacement in Amanda, and she has taken it and definitely ran with it. And to be here 3 years later, being 3/4 of the way of the first year of implementing the new student assignment plan, Shawnee High School closing in on almost 800 students. Shawnee High School participating in regional basketball right now. There should be tipping off right now in probably decades. And being a Shawnee being a Shawnee graduate makes me just so proud. Not just to be a member of the Choice Zone growing up, but just to be able to speak to this work and to oversee this work. But this is definitely not about me. I'm going to introduce Amanda, Michael, Jamira. I have two of my awesome principals here, Principal Hedges and Principal McCoy, and he has brought his counselor, Ms. Gibson, here. They're going to wrap us up later to talk about the funding that they utilize in order to provide support for our students. So I'm going to pass it over to Amanda, and I'm going to shut up.
And just to clarify, Robert, I made the regional tournament in 1998. So just.
Well, hello, everyone. Board Chair Scholl and board members, we are excited to be before you again to give you our quarterly update on the school choice plan. We traveled down this journey for several reasons. And before I get into it, I did want to say, because yes, we all are sitting here, but the school choice team outside of the members that are here are an amazing group, and we cannot do this work by ourselves. We talk each other off of the ledge daily. So I did want to recognize them if they could stand up. An amazing team. Thank you all. But June 1st, 2022, we traveled down this road for several reasons. we wanted to make sure that students in the choice zone had an option to attend a school close to home that was guaranteed, or if they chose a school far away, that that option was guaranteed, but that that choice was in the family's hands. We also wanted to make sure that we had aligned feeder patterns. We had students going all the way from Stewart, then from high school, they were going across the county all the way to Ballard. We wanted to make sure that we had aligned feeder patterns across all grade levels. We also wanted to make sure that we implemented a magnet strategy that addressed our initial beginnings of implementing magnets for the purpose of white flight. And we wanted to change that. And all of those things have been moving. And I will say that although we have addressed or faced challenges, nothing is perfect. And that is something that I have said across this entire journey. But we have put systems in place for accountability and outcomes. I know Ms. Johnson leads the school Choice Zone Advisory Council. We meet monthly, and we also have an outside vendor. So we are open and transparent about how we're moving, because we're not waiting another 40 years to have an update to a school choice plan. And we're open to what that looks like and any adjustments that need to be made. So we are excited still, after a year almost of implementation and planning for the next school year already, because that's school choice world. We're preparing for August. We're still committed to moving the work forward. So with the team that I had stand, I will tell you a big part of this plan was making sure that families were aware of their options. And this is something that wasn't going to be a checkbox. Our folks are intentional about the work. We have an outreach strategy that makes sure that we have our goals, our strategies to be able to implement those goals. We collaborate with other departments. We collaborate with schools, community. Communications is a huge partner. DEP. We make sure that we are out in the streets, making sure families are aware of their options and they're engaging in the application process. Choice Zone was also one thing that we wanted to make sure that we were doing absolutely exceptional. So all of the work is intentional, and what you see before you is a map of our outreach events that we hosted probably over 2 months, and there were close to 60. We had 57 events, and even though we started this work in 2022, after we passed the plan to prepare for this school year, we've actually had an increase in attendees. So again, there are no check boxes when it comes to school choice. We are intentional about the work, and we make sure that we do what we need to do to inform families. So there were over 2,800 attendees this year, and last year it was 1,800. We made sure to list, because we do focus on equity, we make sure to list where we host the events and how many we had that were district-wide, which were 14. So each board member's district is represented in how many events we hosted in each member's district. We did want to make sure that everyone was aware, because one of the huge things was implementing the choice zone and the option close to home and far away. So I broke it down by level. We have kindergarten, incoming 6th grade, and incoming 9th grade students. So I wanted to make sure you knew kindergarten does not have a percentage, because last year we focused on how many students were currently in early childhood and counted those students. We have students that are outside of early childhood. Unfortunately, we don't have chips in our babies that are coming to kindergarten for the first time. So I did want to make sure to include all students this year. So currently for incoming kindergarten students, and this data was taken on February the 20th, close to home, students were 409. Far away, that's a school that's further away from their home, was 95. For a total of 504 students currently. For incoming 6th grade students, 90% of our 5th grade students have completed the application. Again, our outreach does not stop. We have an outreach event tomorrow in the Choice Zone at Shawnee for students that still need to submit applications, and that is something that our office is intentional about and focuses on daily. But for middle school, for incoming 6th grade students, for close to home, it's 583. Far away is 201 for a total of 784. And then for incoming ninth grade students, that's our eighth grade students, our current class, we are at 86% complete. And close to home is 250 and far away is 419 for a total of 669. I will say for this data, it does not take into account students that are accepted in magnet schools or programs. These are students that have submitted an application so far. So we are currently in our application season, as Dr. Polio had mentioned. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware, because I'm sure you may receive emails or questions from families, and that the community is aware of where we sort of are in our process. So currently we have processed our elementary magnet first choice, and they're currently undergoing their second choice applications for elementary magnet schools and programs. And then the deadline for middle and high school magnets to send out their notifications for selections, and those do come from the school, was February the 29th. So those are out in the mail. I do tell families I would give it about a week, just because those are mail and not email notifications, but families should have those notifications any day. And if they, for some reason, in about a week do not have those, then they should contact the school, because the schools are sending those notifications out to families. And then also we will be in the next week processing our elementary zone applications and our choice zone middle and high applications. So those will be processed within the next week or so and out to schools, so that they will be sending notifications as well to families. And then our transfer window is always a popular time for families. That will occur on May the 6th. And that sort of wraps up our sort of application season. I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Michael Alexander to talk to you about updates on our magnet strategy.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So this slide is just a quick update on the work that we are engaged in that focuses on the magnet strategy components in our new school choice plan. One of the components in the magnet strategy in our new school choice plan focuses on our need to provide a stronger support structure for our magnet schools in JCPS. And so we talk about support structure, that can mean several things. It can mean financial support, it can mean professional development, it can mean many things. Specifically with regard to professional development, we continue to be engaged in PD with Magnet Schools of America. This year specifically, they are working with Western High School with their theme implementation as Western gets ready to launch its STEM magnet next year. In addition, they also are working with our traditional schools as well about theme alignment as well. So we continue and appreciate the work with MSA to provide PD to our magnet schools. Another one of our components in our magnet strategy focuses on diversity targets and goals, and that's really important when we talk about equity. When we talk about our magnet strategy, racial equity is specifically addressed in our magnet education policy as well as our racial equity policy. So our schools have gone through the first cycle of their diversity targets and goals. We do have that data, and we are working to put that together so that we can give schools feedback and support heading into the next cycle, application cycle for the fall application window. One of the other components speaks specifically to our goal to make sure that our magnet schools are aligned with our national standards with Magnet Schools of America. And to that end, we do have 11 to 12 magnet schools and programs that are a part of a cohort that are going through the certification process of Magnet Schools of America. That's a really unique and important distinction that a school can achieve if they get that. And to that point also, we want to recognize and celebrate Western Middle School, who in the past couple of weeks received that distinction from Magnet Schools of America. I believe they are the second school in JCPS. I think we have 2 schools in the state of Kentucky, both ours, Olmsted South and Western Middle School, that have achieved that distinction. So we want to celebrate, recognize, and honor Dr. Owens Patterson, her students, and her staff for achieving that recognition now that they are MSA certified.
I must start by saying this: for such a time as this, sometimes we wonder why we're sitting in our seats And we have all been created for this opportunity to fight, collaborate, and stand on what we believe. And we believe as a district that your education should not be hindered by the zip code that you live in, whether it's 4010, 11, 12, or 03. Your education should not be hindered by the zip code that we live in. And that's what I'm going to present on today. Thank you, Chair Schul, board members, Dr. Polio, for the opportunity to provide this Choice Zone Support Plan update. We are almost in a full year of implementation, and with implementation, we all know there are celebrations, constant celebrations, but there are also considerations. But I must say also, we're not perfect, we're pressing to a higher mark. And as a district, we have collaborated and we have creatively adjusted to meet the needs of our students attending Choice Zone schools. Now, how do we say we value your school community? This is the awesome work in the facility with our facilities updates. Our district has invested in facility updates, which included fresh paint, updating school logos, creating a colorful and vibrant and engaging environment for our students, staff, and families. And students and our principals here and our leaders here would say, students were in awe of the updates when they arrived the first day of school. And each time, and I've worked in plenty of these schools, and each time I walk into them, I am amazed by how vibrant and lively the schools look now. And in addition to the facility updates, many of our Choice Zone schools are in their first year of implementation of the new ELA curriculum. And with this new implementation, there has been a lot of questions, but they have been our principals and leaders and teachers have been provided support by our academics department, and the specialists come out to check on the principals to see what they need or whether the teachers need. And as we delve deeper into the support, it was imperative that we align the educational goals with budget decisions to ensure that our schools had optimal resource allocation. Choice Zone school budgets prioritize small class sizes, supplemental funding for student, staff, and family engagement, and pay incentives for principals, teachers, and staff. And throughout the school year, our Choice Zone schools have seen an increase in student enrollment. Amanda just showed you the numbers, and we're going to continue to see that increase. And to reduce the ratio of students to teachers in the classrooms, principals have creatively used their budgets to allocate teachers and their funding in creative ways. And in some cases, like you were here today from these principals, they have assigned 2 teachers per classroom to lower the student-to-teacher ratio. This allows for students to receive additional support and provide solutions in the absence of a substitute teacher. Furthermore, we know teacher recruitment impacts various aspects of education. We believe in fostering supportive and engaging learning environments for our students and staff. And we all know our students need well-qualified teachers who want to teach in the Choice Zone. But in addition to teacher recruitment and retention efforts, our Choice Zone principals receive coaching by retired administrators, and that helps them navigate through day-to-day challenges or to provide that extra assistance when needed. But also, we've had grants and awards awarded, and Choice Zone schools have been the recipients of these grants. And more after-school programs, mental health practitioners, and field trip experiences have been provided to Choice Zone schools so that we can continue to provide learning experiences for our students. And as I conclude, I am going to really focus on this. We need to keep our teachers that we have, our teachers in the Choice Zone and our staff in the Choice Zone are amazing. Our schools are amazing. But as our enrollment continues to increase, we need amazing teachers. And Dr. Polio talked about this earlier. Teachers are valuable. And I know Maupin's principal just left, but she is retaining her teachers. And I wanted to talk about that myth that our Choice Zone schools are struggling. They are not struggling. They are great schools. And we want our teachers to know and our candidates to know that these schools and our students deserve great teachers. And I am going to pass it over to Ms. Hedges.
I'm Rhonda Hedges. I'm the principal at King Elementary. I came tonight with Jamira to kind of talk about what we've done down at King with the choice zone and how we've used our budget this past school year. When I arrived there last year, we were just getting things off the ground, and Jamira came and spoke with me. I had a couple of meetings with Michael, and we talked about how we could maybe lower the class size and how we could do that creatively. And one of the things that we did was add an extra teacher at every grade level. That has helped tremendously with Tier 1 instruction. You can talk to any principal in the district. One of the biggest struggles is substitute teachers, and we all can talk about that a lot. That keeps the instruction going. So that teacher not only pulls groups, but if a teacher is absent, they're able to step in because they're a part of that team. They're a lead teacher. They help with data. They help with small groups. They are in the classroom every single day doing that work. So if someone's missing, they step right in and step into that work. So it's that team collaboration effort. Parents have spoke to it. We set our budget. It's budget time, as you know, and we just did that. And the SBDM committee unanimously wanted the same setup for this year. So parents are already noticing that instruction continues and things are stable for their child, and that learning doesn't stop if someone's not there. So that was a really big piece that we added on this past year. We also have been able to use the choice zone fundings to provide, and I think my colleagues are going to talk a little more about that, but providing experiences to our students that maybe they wouldn't get otherwise. And we took our students, one experience, we've done several, but we took our students to see Frozen, and that was a great experience, but not just our students, but a family member as well on charter buses. And I think that was the greatest night. The kids are still talking about it. That was several months ago now, but they're still talking about it and providing them with those experiences that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. Families are just extremely excited and happy. I think I've shared this story with Jamira, but when you have a kindergarten parent that comes to the showcase of schools and meets with you and wants to talk about your school and then becomes a part of your social media following and likes everything you put on there and says, I can't wait for my child to come to King, that says a lot about the decisions with Choice School. So thank you for that.
Good evening. I'm Ryan McCoy, the proud principal at Englehart Elementary School. And I'll just very briefly talk before I pass it over to our wonderful school counselor. But I just want to talk quickly about the beautification projects that have taken place. We saw some pictures a moment ago, and I couldn't help but smile. When we had our back to school events this past summer, bringing in families and students, to hear and to see the excitement on everyone's faces, it's almost as if you walked into a brand new school building. So the excitement of, again, not just students, but staff, to have a brand new playground, updates to our logo, just the excitement was built, and students really wanted to be at school, and it really helped increase that sense of belonging. So the beautification projects have had a tremendous positive impact on our school culture and our students, and just makes them want to be at school. With that said, I'll pass it over to our phenomenal school counselor, Ms. Gibson.
Good evening. I'm Malia Gibson. I'm the school counselor at Englehart Elementary, and I also attended Englehart Elementary. So I feel like I'm back home. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. And to piggyback off what Dr. McCoy said, when our students first came, we were able to use Choice Zone funds to have a back to school bash. So we had a DJ and ice cream and stations, and our students were excited to see the new building, but they were excited to start and kick off the new school year. So that's one way that we were able to use Choice Zone funds. We've also been able to use it to build and uplift our culture and climate at our school, because we are able to have some catered lunches and opportunities for our teachers to have that sense of belonging and appreciation at our school. For our students, we did water bottles school-wide with our new school logo on them, because our students often ask, can I go to get some water? Can I go get some water? Can I go get some water? This is a way not only to help them, but to decrease the time that they are losing instruction because they have their water bottles, they fill them up before school starts and they have it all day. So also our students are able to have PBIS parties and we use choice zone funds for that. So a way to increase student engagement, but also decrease student issues and behavior and promote positive behavior within our school. I think one of the most creative things that we've done so far with the choice zones funds is having meaningful morning breakfast in action. We have the new curriculums for math and ELA. And so our parents, they want to know how they can help their students at home. So we have our parents come in, they eat breakfast and learn about the curriculum. And we also give them ways that they can help their students at home. We give them material that they can use to help increase that engagement at home and help with homework. And then after they eat breakfast and learn about the curriculum, they actually get to go into the classrooms and see the curriculum in action. So I just want to thank you all for the funds and just say that the funds have been an amazing way for us to increase engagement, not only with our staff and students, but also with our families.
And Englehart, like I saw y'all at Robo Rumble. This is the Kentucky Derby Festival robotics competition that Englehart won.
Yeah.
It was amazing that Englehart won. So I don't know if you used the funds for that or not but like that's an amazing feat that Englehart won that robotics competition. Congratulations. Does that conclude presentation? Good. I also wanted to add for our board members, one of the things we've also added to the Choice Zone is we have a landscaping contract for all of our Choice Zone schools. So we are working on beautifying the outside of the schools as well. So I think that's an important part of it. So thank you to all of you who gave your night this evening to talk. We appreciate you. Happy to take any questions.
Dr. Cole?
Thanks, Chair Shull. Yeah, so there's actually a policy that whenever Dr. Polio mentions his coaching career, we have to give him a hard time about it. And I'd just like to point out, he's sitting in this chair here and not on a sideline right now.
There's a reason for it.
There's a good reason for that, yes. Many congratulations to you for 57 events and almost a 60% turnout so far. I mean, that's a lot of work. So very well done. Yeah, keep it up. Just a question about the extra teacher you have. Does that teacher, he or she or they work as a floater or is that it?
I can kind of explain a little
Yeah.
bit. We have, at each grade level, we have 2 classrooms. So kindergarten has 2 kindergarten classrooms.
Mhm.
And then that one extra teacher goes between rooms, yes.
Okay.
And pulls groups and then works with both classrooms. So
Gotcha.
they're in and out of both classrooms. We've staggered the EL time. So you've heard about how they have the U-Fly instruction or skills block. And so they stagger those so that person can go and do small groups in both classrooms.
Awesome.
And that's done throughout the building. It's kind of remarkable to see that they're able to pull, you'll go in a room and there'll be multiple groups going on and students doing independent work, but there's few students doing that independent work, but more in groups, which is what we need.
Yeah, that's really great because I always often wonder, I mean, small class sizes are great, but do we have the physical space, for an extra classroom and that way you don't actually need it.
Yeah,
So.
you don't need the extra classroom and and if numbers have increased, that hasn't been as, I don't hear any pushback from our teachers about that because they have that extra person to help pull off that. So you don't feel that I have more students, but we have more students because we
Right.
want to stay in the choice zone.
Great.
And one of the things we've had to work on, it's very difficult, is when we talk about small class size, it puts a very hard cap on every single school. And so if it is but if we have 2 teachers in a classroom to 24 kids, then it's 1 to 12. And so, or adults. So that's what we've really had to focus on because of our limited, amount of seats that are available. So that's a model that we are trying to spread to all of our schools.
With the funding, I'm glad it is doing so many great things. Are we working with like research and accountability to see like what specific initiatives we're kind of getting the most bang for our buck out of? Like, I mean, I love the parent curriculum education program, whatever you call it, sounds fantastic. Yeah, are we looking at what's really working and getting some good data, or in the future going to get some good data?
I'll start. We actually have one of our external partners
Okay.
doing research on,
good.
it's Hanover Institute, who we have contracted with. So we do internal and external research and evaluation, and there's only so much internally we can handle. And we felt that providing you with an external snapshot of the programs that are working in especially such a big thing like student choice was an important thing to do. So you'll be seeing some of that research come out soon.
Great. Because I mean, among other things, it sounds like a great laboratory to try some things and see what works. And I just want to say how awesome it is that my child goes to a middle school that is certified by the Magnet Schools of America. Shout out to Eli if you're watching. You're probably not, but if you are, make sure you do your homework. Yeah, so that's fantastic. And just finally to underscore, if we are going to maintain what seems to be fantastic momentum, we got to keep the funding up, and it's probably not going to be coming from Frankfurt, unfortunately, even though they have $5 billion that they could actually do something with, and they're not going to. So we're going to have to ask ourselves as a board if we, think that things like this are worth continuing to fund, and make some maybe tough decisions coming up in a few months. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Ms. Strange?
Yes. Do we know the racial demographics of the choice zone?
I actually looked at the racial demographics of all the choice zone schools, but not as a total, but varies from 80%, 70%, 50%. So, and over the last 3 years, the racial demographics have there has been no significant changes. It's kind of stayed the same.
Okay, and because it's probably an assumption, and I may be assuming incorrectly, that it's probably children of color that are attending the majority of these choice zone schools. And I know Dr. Marshall talked about efforts to recruit teachers of color. So is that coinciding to make sure that the choice zone schools have teachers and administrators that look like the students who attend the schools?
Well, yeah, I think that's a real, well, I'll say that's a focus everywhere. I can't say that we have specifically just said it's only choice zone. I mean, that is a focus everywhere that we want to make sure of. Our big focus on teachers is retaining teachers in our choice zone schools, especially even our AIS schools as well, but making sure that we retain teachers, because I think the biggest challenge is when you're turning over a large percentage of your staff every year, especially in a high poverty situation. And so when a principal is able to keep the vast majority of their staff, that's when they really begin to gain a lot of momentum. So that's been our focus. That doesn't mean making sure we don't do the other things. And we will get you the specific demographics. I think your assumption is correct as far as the percentages, but I want to make sure you have very specific percentages.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McIntosh?
Just very quickly, the families that have not made their selection yet, middle school at 90, high school at 86, do we know if there's a lot of overlap? Like, it's the same families that are not making that selection, or is it ML families that maybe don't know how to navigate the system because they're new? Do we know anything about?
So I will say in our data, it's broken down by individual student. So I don't know if I can necessarily answer the question about families. Of course, if they're siblings and neither one of them have completed the application, they would be included in our data that we need to complete. But we can dive into that if that's something that you wanted to have.
I guess in the back of my mind, what I'm thinking is if you've lived in Louisville for any length of time, this is a thing, right? That you've got to choose where your kid goes to school and things like that. So where is the disconnect and the breakdown? Are these involved parents, or these parents who just don't have access?
I will say historically in the choice zone, what we used to call the satellite area was families that are probably dealing with multiple things going on in their lives and historically have completed the application late. Now, I will say having 80 or 86% from the almost 60 events that we had was absolutely amazing. And that data will also be, and I want to make sure to make clear, like I'm reporting on transition students, but if students are moving in other grades, we are also tracking those students because if their address changes, they are following the new plan and they are also submitting applications. So I will say from this data, we are in a good spot and probably where we were last year, just like our elementary students that have to complete an application to receive an assignment. We've been able to monitor and track that to make sure that we use Power School, that people personnel, we work with them pretty much daily, and we're sending out messages to families and continuing that outreach effort as well.
Okay, my mama heart, I worry about the kids whose parents have not made that choice yet.
No, absolutely.
And so I was just wondering, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, well, my big questions really are around attendance and what you're seeing in the attendance of the students at these choice zone schools. And if are we about the same as what we were before they were choice zone schools, or do we notice any difference in that? For students first, do we notice any difference in attendance?
Well, I think when you look at the data, I mean, choice zone being high poverty is going to be lower attendance than the overall percentage. I mean, that is reflective of not just choice zone, but AIS as well. But I think we'll need to do that evaluation for you when we get to towards the end of the year that shows the attendance difference from year to year and what that impact on it. I will say this, each year continues to seem to be a significant higher challenge across the district and across the state when it comes to attendance. And I think there's a lot of people struggling to answer the why question to that, not just here, but all across the state and the nation. And so that is something that we really need to take a deep dive into, provide you the data so that you see that and then can get a good response to that.
Well, and I'd like for you to also include that staff attendance, how it was before and how it is now, and how it will be, how we are tracking staff attendance, because attendance is such a reflection of how people, a lot of times, how people feel about their work environment and coming to work every day. So I think that's an important thing for us to look at. And chronically absent students, are we, that's another area that I want to see some data on. If we have chronically absent students increasing in those schools. And I know it's a difficult thing to say about one set of schools, because all of them are, I'm sure, being affected by the attendance issues. But I know my big interest is in that, and also in participation, after school sports and learning activities after school. Are we keeping track of the numbers of kids that are taking part in these after-school programs or sports activities? Do we feel like we're getting good participation in that?
Anecdotally, I think that's hard to say. I mean, I've seen some positive, just like Englehart's robotics competition. So that's anecdotally. We do track that data in the athletic office when it comes to athletics. I think we can provide that data too as we wrap up the year and get through the spring sports, and then do a summary of what we see with that data as well.
Well, I appreciate that. I know for me, that's just a big concern, and I want to be sure that we're drawing attendance with these schools as the best that we can. And I think that's it. Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Mr. Craig?
Dr. Polio, when are we going to get the next update on the implementation of this plan? We're getting 4 a year. Do we know when the next one is?
So we're doing it about a quarterly basis. So I would say right at the end of the school year is when we would be, late May, early June is when we would be providing the next report. And that would be, we will have the ability to summarize a lot of the data at that point.
Okay. I guess the data that I'm most interested in is the retention of teachers and other staff members throughout the choice zone to see whether or not the financial incentives that we're providing are actually paying fruit. I guess we probably won't have those by that report though, will we?
I mean, we may be able to have some requests for transfer data, but we will not have the full report until we come back in the fall and see who is remaining. That will be the final report we have on retention.
And then we won't have the test scores until October at least, correct?
Late October, it was November this year, so depends on when KDE releases it, but I would assume late October.
Other map data available to us by the time of the next report so that we could track that data specifically for choice zone schools, see how we're
Yes.
doing there.
Yes, we will have that data.
Okay, and at some point, I guess I'll have, and perhaps the full board will have some questions about coordination with transportation, but that might, in the implementation of the plan, but that might be coming at a later time, I think I understand. So I'll save those questions for offline and a later date. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Marshall?
No questions from me. Thank everybody for their hard work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for this awesome presentation, and thank you for your diligent, indefatigable work to ensure that students in Jefferson County have choice, and for ensuring that our district as a whole is strengthened. I have a few questions as it relates to pay incentives for staff. Is that all staff? And I guess most specifically, did security get it? They did not. Okay.
So the focus was on, once again, where we have significant vacancies, and it was around instructional focus on that. So I know that's been difficult. You probably had a lot of interaction about that, but that's where that was what we agreed on.
Right. Yeah, so we have had a lot of interaction about that. And yeah, so I guess I just need to say publicly to our security personnel in the choice zone, you know who I'm talking to. We love you. There's a person who's been in a school there for 30 plus years. And so we want to, I guess, revisit that at some time along the line if we can. Community partnerships. So I know when we opened Du Bois and Grace James, there were a lot of very, very exciting community partnerships for those schools. I'm wondering, is there a process to sort of create those community partnerships for choice zone schools to ensure that we're providing students with more opportunities and incentives for good grades?
I can definitely speak on community partners. I at least have one meeting a day with a community partner. We have Boys and Girls Club coming to two elementary schools where they have a permanent site inside two choice zone schools, but also our full service community school grant that we have when we have partnerships with Evolve 502, Peace Education, I Would Rather Be Reading, and a plethora more.
Wonderful.
And so the community partnerships we are not lacking in. And so I can say, I can vouch for that.
Very good.
We'll take more though.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. I just want to say that the extra teacher for every grade level, that is a bomb idea. That is fantastic. And I wish we could see that happen in every school because I think that's a game changer. Yeah. So
The game changer.
yeah, I'm sure. So I want to commend you on that, and hopefully as we improve our teacher recruitment, we'll be able to see that happen in more buildings throughout our district. I just want to flag facilities was in the report, and I just want to flag Grace James facility. We've talked about that offline, and I just want to say that publicly that is high on the agenda for us to accomplish. Thank you all so very much. You all are incredible. Is there a motion to receive the update on the school choice plan implementation? Ms. Duncan, seconded by Ms. McIntosh, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you all so very much. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus H1? Dr. Cole? Ms. McIntosh?
I have a question first on that.
Okay, that's why you pulled it down.
The item that deals with the school graduation, the calendar of school graduations, I don't know, I don't remember which item that was. But
So you saying you want to pull down another item?
yes.
That is R.
Okay.
Okay, R. Yeah, I'd like to just pull that one down in addition to.
In addition to
others.
H1? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus H1 and R? Dr. Cole, Ms. McIntosh, all in favor? Ayes have it. Ms. Duncan?
Okay, well, H1, want to get clarification before I say anything on this. This is concerning the kitchen, the Life Skills Kitchen at Breckenridge Metro. And I want to make sure, is this something in addition to what's there right now? Or is this just catching up to what's there right now?
I don't know that. Rob, do you know that?
This is a BG4 to close that project out. The Potter Architects made their final inspection and concluded that the contract was complete. So it's the BG4 closing that project out.
All right, very good. Well, I was there the other day. I was there and visited the kitchen, which I thought was phenomenal. So I wondered if there was going to be anything, added to that, because it's a great addition to the programs there. And I was so excited to see the work that's being done at Breckenridge Metro about the certifications that are being offered and the kids taking part in those certification programs. And I think they're graduating more, and they're graduating kids with industry certifications. And I just think these things, that their partnerships are with the community, the hospitals there with their health program, health careers program. And I just think it's so great that we are supporting Breckenridge Metro with these kinds of programs for the kids there, because that's what will reconnect those kids to every other preparation that they want. But thank you. I did want to comment on that kitchen though. Thank you.
And R?
And R, I just want Dr. Polio to clarify what we're voting on with these graduation options.
Yeah, and I meant to say that in my superintendent report and got worked up, so I apologize for that. But we want to clarify that you are not voting on one of the three options. This is a whole package, meaning the first option is if we have no canceled school days, which I don't think we will, but you never know. But if we do not have any canceled school days, that it would automatically, you're voting, that would be what would be the graduation. If there's one day, it would be the second option. If there's 2 days, it would be the third option. So it just gives us protection that if there are canceled school days, we just flip to the next day. So you're not voting on one of the three, you're voting on the package.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve consent items H1 and R? Ms. Duncan, Ms. McIntosh, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you. Dr. Cole, will you please draw our tie bids?
Yeah, get out your phones and look at Twitter. I got a few of these to do. Item 95 on bid ID 8298 for instructional and office supplies, and the item is awarded to National Art and School Supplies. Next, item 124 on bid ID 8298 for instructional and office supplies, and the item is awarded to John R. Green Company. Item number 144 on bid ID 8298 for instructional and office supplies, and the item is awarded to Complete Printer Source. And finally, item number 162 on bid ID 8298 for instructional and office supplies, and the item is awarded to Pyramid School Products.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to receive the planning calendar? Ms. Strange? Dr. Cole, all in favor? Ayes have it. Are there any committee reports? Dr. Cole?
Just real quick, we're going to have a policy committee meeting this coming Monday, but it's not necessary. So our next one is not until mid-May, actually.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Duncan?
Were you going to call for other reports, board reports?
When I got the board reports.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any other committee reports? Okay, board reports.
Well, I just want to mention three things. One was the opening of the health clinic at Iroquois High School, and what a great effort that is to support the families of Iroquois High School students, and how much we appreciate that. Also want to mention the attended Neighborhood Place retreat that kind of reviewed the history of Neighborhood Place, which is really was a great vision that Marty Bell had. And I just wanted the whole program really was emphasizing the importance of the community councils and how the community councils connect to the community's needs, and how those needs then get funneled to Neighborhood Place. And it's just it's a great program that's unique and gets studied by districts all over the country. And then the third thing was attended Manuel's PTA Founders Day celebration awards program today. And in the course of that, which was wonderful, amazing, people recognized there. But in the course of that, I also found out the industry certifications that Manuel's also offering, which I've always wondered about and hoped for, that they were pursuing. And I think they have about 6 areas that kids are earning industry certifications in addition to being college ready. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Any other board reports? Mr. Craig?
I was going to bring this up during the planning calendar, but I'll raise it now. Dr. Polio, I see, if you don't mind, Chair Schull, if I raise a question during the board report time about the planning calendar. We're slated currently for a discussion of the 24-25 budget, Dr. Polio, on May 7th, it looks like. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yes, sir. It is required by the end of May. May 31st is the deadline that it must be approved and sent to the state. So it has to be in May. That's why we put it on the May 7th meeting.
Is that the meeting where we would receive staff's recommendation on next year's tax rate?
That could be, yes.
Could we get, I know last year there was a question about the calendar for the vote and when certain votes would have to take place with respect to the tax rate. Could we get an email either from Kevin's office or Eddie's office with a timeline for the tax rate this year and when certain triggering mechanisms have to take place by the Board of Ed?
Yes, we'd be happy to do that.
And then this may be more difficult, but perhaps a report from you on the good that has been wrought from the 2020 tax increase and how we have been able to implement those additional funds since we got them in October of 2022, and what might be the needs of the district funding wise going forward. Perhaps a little bit more context and elaboration from your office than we do generally receive each year. Specifically responding to Dr. Kolb's comments at the end of the student assignment plan and anticipated discussions that we might be having. I really want to hear from staff where we stand on funding.
Yes, we'd be happy to bring that.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Chair Scholl.
Thank you, sir. I want to make sure that we recognize the 6 principals who are recognized as winners of the Academic Innovators for Excellence in Literary Instruction Award. Josh Bourgeois at TJ Middle, Stacy Rowan at Slaughter, Heather Scott at Gudemuth, Melissa Sharon at Stouffer, Amy Stride at Barrett, and Toetta Toll at Iroquois. We celebrate those principals who continue to grow and expand their capacity to lead schools. Is Louisa Sarpe here? She is. Okay, we will play our video.
In accordance with Board Policy 01.421, the board expects that persons who have signed up to address the board will limit their remarks to the subject that they listed at the time they signed up, that their presentation will not include any defamatory or abusive remarks about the subject, and that they will present their remarks in a manner that is consistent with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Also, in accordance with board policy, the board reserves the right to limit, extend, or terminate discussion on any subject. Discussion of personnel matters is not permitted, as state law requires that personnel matters are within the sole authority of the superintendent. The speaker may not initiate charges or complaints against an individual district employee by name or position in order to ensure confidentiality and fairness for the employee. Speakers before the entire board are not allowed to use props, displays, or any other objects during their remarks. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board and may not share these minutes with any other speaker. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a bell will sound once. You will then have 30 seconds to finish your statement. At the end of 3 minutes, the bell will sound twice, indicating that your time is up. The superintendent will look into the speaker's issues and, if necessary, represent the board in following up or recommend action to the board. The full board policy concerning public participation in open meetings is available for viewing on our website and at our sign-in sheet.
Can I start? Good evening, Dr. Polio and members of the Jefferson County Board. My name is Louisa Sarpi, and I'm currently a freshman at the historical Central High School. I first came here in the United States in 2013 from Liberia when I was only 4 years old. My parents applied for and won the diversity visa lottery that gave me not only the opportunity, but the chance to have a better life in America. We settled in Bowling Green and then in 2016, we moved from Bowling Green to Louisville, and I became a JCBE student at Eisenhower Elementary. I attended Conway Middle School, and when it was time to choose high schools, I knew that Central was the place for me to be. Central offers the Law and Government program, which is the reason why I went to Central. I want to be a lawyer and practice international law to help families like mine. My reside school, PRP, does not offer these programs like Central does. So many of Louisville's judges and lawyers attended Central. I came to Central to follow their footsteps. I can tell you that my experiences at Eisenhower and Conway are nothing compared to my experiences at Central. From having teachers who look more like me and having classes that represent my history, like African history, studies, and women's history. Classes that give me a voice. Classes where my voice is valued. Extracurricular clubs that make me feel seen, like our Black Student Union and our African Student Association. I know firsthand that being at a magnet school is not only a privilege, but an opportunity. Coming from Liberia, when families had to pay for simple education and access to not even half of the resources that magnet schools provide, including Central's law program. From opportunities like the Dallas and American Bar Association coming to talk to students, not only to talk to us, but to listen to our voices. I'm only a freshman, and it felt amazing having adults who work in the work field that I strive to be in take their time to listen to kids in the community. To remind us that not only do our voices matter, but we also have a chance. Things like that make a difference. I know other schools cannot provide me these opportunities that Central does. I can only speak for what I know. I am a Black immigrant. I've been told I have to work 3 times harder than these other kids. And if you take away busings from magnet schools, you remind me and all these other kids of that fact. And we will have to work harder, even 4 to 5 times harder than these other kids. To find a way for our magnet schools, if we even can still attend them, to reach our paths, to reach our goals. I want to go to Central. I want to be a leader of positive social change. I applied like everyone else and got accepted. So why are you trying to take that away from me? Quality education that prepares us for our future is something that shouldn't be taken away. So today I'm here to help, hoping you understand there is a cost to your decision on busing. I stand in this space as an
Thank you. Ariana Porter.
Good evening. My name is Ariana Porter, and I'm a junior at the Historic Central High School. And I'm gonna tell y'all how if busing gets changed, how it affect me and a lot of other Central students. Through my journey at JCBS, it led me to Central because of the magnets that Central offers. I want to be a nurse, and I'm planning to attend college for nursing. So Central was my natural first choice and only choice for high schools. I was blessed to be accepted into Central, and I have taken full advantage of the opportunities Central has given me. We have 11 magnets that are all tailored towards our specific career pathways. So each student in the medical magnets at Central High School have plenty of opportunities as shadowing hospitals and working hands-on in the medical field, and are making differences in our community. Our magnet teachers have worked in the field that they are teaching. This is important because if busing is taken away from Central students, I will be forced to go to my reside school, which is Iroquois, which they do have an allied health academy, but it's not guaranteed that my teacher will have a background in nursing. Yes, they will have a wealth of medical knowledge, but they do not have the connections that give the students the upper hand in the workforce. JCPS students, especially minority students, need this upper hand going into the college and the workforce. Central High School is the first high school to have a medical magnet. That is important because representation matters. Minorities are underrepresented in the medical field, and 70% of Black doctors attended HBCUs. Even though Central is just a high school, we are truly a HBCU. Our medical magnets produce the future doctors, nurses, dentists, veterinarians, and our community desperately needs. So please do not take this away from us. Schedules change, and transportation will not be offered for me and most of my friends and classmates that are in the same situation as I am. I was accepted into Central with the understanding that I would be able to attend Central for the all 4 years. I cannot begin to wrap my hand around potentially starting a new school as a senior, and I'm just not going to have the same opportunities at Iroquois that I will have at Central. So I'm asking if you can please continue busing for Central. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana. Ava Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm Ava Williams, a sophomore at Central High School, and I want to speak with you about the upcoming transportation vote for the 2024 to 25 school year. I understand that the Board of Education members will vote at the end of the month, and I highly suggest that you vote no to removing transportation for magnet in traditional schools. I understand that this is a big ask. Let me explain why I feel like you should vote this way. Personally, if there is any change, I will not be able to attend Central High School. Central has been a great experience for me. It is a place where I have found strong student belonging. I have been introduced to a lot of great peers, administrators, and teachers. I feel like I fit in very well at Central, and I couldn't picture myself anywhere else. My reside school is Iroquois High School. I do not believe that Iroquois would be a good fit for me. The courses that they offer will not align with my goals like they do at Central. I'm a part of the Teaching and Learning Magnet, and I have made a lot of progress and achieved many things throughout my experience in the program. I have built strong connections with the elementary school students at Coleridge Taylor Elementary through my time in the Magnet. I was presented a job opportunity to work as an after-school tutor, which I was for 4 months. This program is creating a pipeline to address the teacher shortage we have been confronted with, but it also addresses the teacher of color shortage by the demographic of students that it serves. Central allows me to continue my dual credit class and to continue to do great things with children and the future of education. I want everyone to understand how and why this is important to me. I love Central High School, and when I was accepted 2 years ago, it included transportation. With the changes that are proposed, I would no longer have my daily transportation to school. By not being able to attend Central, I have to form new connections and relationships halfway through my high school career. The connections I have built so far would have seemed to be a waste. Central has provided me with mentors that are people of color, something that is important to me as a minority student. Central has given me everything a high school student should need, from a great support system from my administrators to an exceptional education. Being a biracial teenager, having a diverse population is meaningful to my growth in finding my voice and identity. I can't see myself anywhere else, and changing the transportation will require me to move from a place I do consider my home. I ask that you take my words into consideration while voting at the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Lana Shoemaker.
May I start? Hello, I'm Lana Shoemaker, and I'm an 8th grader at Pathfinder School of Innovation. Last week, me and my classmates received an email stating that Pathfinder Middle School will be closing next year. Now, this may not affect us because we are 8th graders, but this affects the 7th and 6th graders who are going next year. This school has made, I'm so sorry. This school has helped us on multiple levels through academics, and we feel like we are a family there. These 7th and 6th graders will not have the option to progress next year. I'm so sorry. This school has helped so many kids with their academics, and we have multiple programs helping after school. We actually just passed a program for student tutoring from 6th to 12th grade, but this middle school has helped multiple students and I myself. Multiple classmates do not feel comfortable in the traditional setting, that there is bullying and multiple issues. With this school, there is not that. Teachers have an easier time teaching us. We feel like we're learning more with this school, but with it shutting down, we will no longer have that. This school started only a few years ago, and it's still growing. Why cut it off? We are still growing. Why cut it off if it's going to help more kids? So please do not shut down this school. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Welsh.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Welsh. I'm a former teacher and high school counselor in Jefferson County Public Schools for almost 40 years. I have been a teacher at Southern High School, Stewart Middle, Buchel Metropolitan, a high school counselor at Fern Creek High School, Manual, Jefferson County High School. Tonight, I'd like to address 2 issues that go hand in hand. One is the current bus situation being talked about for next year. After this year's mess of 8 starting times and poor route planning by a company out of town, I'm hoping sounder minds will prevail for next year. I, along with all citizens in Louisville, pay my taxes, which go to successful and unsuccessful programs JCPS has implemented over the years. Possibly only providing buses for some students should be a non-starter. JCPS has implemented all kinds of programs to entice students to come to various schools. Parents and students select these schools on programs offered and possibly the proximity to their homes. Transportation has always been provided. Next year, students will be sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Now, all of a sudden, you tell them basically, get there the best way you can. It's one thing to tell in advance that transportation will no longer be provided in a couple of years, but not next year. Parents need time to plan for these things. I don't pay taxes, so only some students are provided services, but that all students are. This is an adult failure. It's time for students to not feel the repercussions caused by adults. I have a novel idea for those who can ride the buses. Let the students that behave ride the buses. If you misbehave, you find your way to school. This leads me to my second issue, discipline. Bus drivers over the years, even when I was working, have complained about the lack of discipline on the buses and lack of support by some school administrators when it came to misbehaving students. I, along with all parents, want their son or daughter to be in a safe and as much as possible carefree environment. The adults need to step up, take charge, and hold misbehaving students accountable and their parents if need be. I had the good fortune over the years to work in some schools with outstanding principals and assistant principals: Jim Birch, Ralph Allen, Maurice Weisner, Lynn Nixon, Tito Castillo, and Jill Snyder, to name a few. These administrators treated students fairly but held them accountable. I also worked for some that were, for a better term, scared of the students and the parents. So things were watered down and behavior expectations were poor. There was more of a concern not to hurt the feelings or the self-worth of a misbehaving student than there was to hold them accountable. If there's a lot of discipline if there's a lack of discipline in school, it's hard for the good students you just heard to learn. Lack of discipline for young people has led to the misbelief that they can do what they want and not suffer the consequences. We see this in everyday life with the crime being committed. Some administrators were afraid to enforce discipline because their statistics would look bad on paper. Too many suspension. All this has led to the culture of lack of respect for authority. And if you don't get a handle on this sooner than later, it will be the downfall of public education. There will be continued bus driver and
Thank you all for being with us tonight. It's 8:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn? Ms. McIntosh, Ms. Duncan, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you. Good night.